Martin knew since childhood what he wanted to be when he grew up. Every time the adults asked him what he wanted to be, he never hesitated and answered, veterinarian. But if it had been up to him, his house would be full of little animals all the time. He got along better with the dogs and cats than with the other children, and he felt a deep connection with them. And since he couldn't have them at home, his favorite hobbies were his town's zoo and spending a whole day there, observing all species of animals and becoming more fascinated with them every day. And that hobby would never pass, for his life were passing countless options, and Martin continued to prefer the one with which he had dreamed since childhood, converting himself into a veterinarian. When he finally reached the age when he could begin to fulfill his dreams, understand firsthand the procedures he would have to perform on animals made him hesitate for a moment, but he soon knew that although some processes were unpleasant, it would always be to help some animal, and that was worth all the discomforts. That's how Martin devoted himself, body and soul, to his studies, and when he finished, he opened his own modest veterinary clinic with his savings of many years and the support of his parents, of course. Getting his first customers was not an easy task. Once they met him, they never left him. They always said that Martin was the most loving veterinarian with the pets and that he seemed to understand it. He did not overcharge for his work, just the right thing, and that was something uncommon in that type of clinic. Over time, little by little, his means were growing, and finally, he no longer only cared for pets, but all kinds of animals, and also went to farms and zoos when requested. No one in that city knew as much about animals as he did. Martin had spent the first 28 years of his life in love with animals, and that was when it was time for him to know what it was like to fall in love with a woman. He had had a few passing relationships at that point, but when he met Sonia, he knew she would be the one he would love for the rest of his life. Sonia loved animals like he did. She was a very pleasant young woman who could not see animals on the street without trying to help them. That is why her house had also become the house of 7 dogs and 9 cats, all rescued from abandonment and malnutrition. She also had a parrot that she had stolen from a house in which she realized that he was hurt, a small ferret that she never knew where it came from, and then was not able to kick it out. It was normal for a woman with such companions to often need the services of a veterinarian, and as she admired so much for the work he did, he charged her little whenever he could, and brought her concentrate for the animals whenever he could. Little by little, between them, a complicity was emerging that became love. Now Martin and Sonia worked together in the clinic because he had taught her everything necessary to be a nurse, and also now she would dedicate to pets and their aesthetics. At the same time, he could concentrate on the medical aspects only, which was what he was most passionate about. When Martin and Sonia were going to work, they heard a plaintive moan in the bushes. They tried to find the animal that produced the sound, if they doubted it. Martin believed it to be a dog, but he had never heard a lament like that, and was mentally prepared to find something terrible. However, after a few minutes of searching, they found a puppy. It was of a small breed, and was too dirty. It was covered with a large crust of dirt. Sonia took it with the utmost care, because the dog showed signs of not trusting humans, and tried to go first, and then attack them, but it had no strength to defend itself, and finally just let itself be lifted and taken to the cage. Although we never know the thoughts that crossed the dog's mind at the time, Martin and Sonia could deduce from their terrified little face that the animal was sure that they would hurt it. When they arrived, Martin commissioned Sonia to clean it while preparing to sterilize it. But the scream of Sonia scared him. She was in shock looking at the dog and was not able to say anything, only pointed, and that was how Martin knew, when approaching the dog, realizing with pain, that the crust that he had believed was his hair with dirt was actually the only thing that covered his flesh, and the crust was his skin. The animal had indeed been burned, and by the appearance it gave, it must have been with something dense, such as heated honey. Martin understood that the animal was suffering in remarkable ways, but refused to apply the injection that would put him to sleep forever. He had a hunch that the dog still had hope of continuing to live, and decided to do everything he could to save it. He operated on the dog to remove all the burned skin, and had it for several weeks sedated while its tissue healed and began to regenerate. It was a long and painful process. Every day, Martin cursed in tears anyone who had been able to do something like this to such a noble and defenseless creature. Gradually, the efforts of Martin and Sonia began to be noticed, and the puppy started to spend more and more busy time until he was finally able to leave the clinic without fear of becoming infected. Its skin responded well and was completely healed. The small animal would never have hair again, and perhaps its appearance was not the best, but for Martin and Sonia, the dog was an absolute miracle. For that, although at first they had thought about putting it up for adoption, when they saw it standing again with its wrinkled skin trembling, but with eyes of gratitude that pierced their hearts, they knew they had to stay with it, because the dog had already chosen them. They gave it the name Amor, and Sonia learned to knit to make t-shirts for the dog so that it did not go cold due to lack of fur. See Amor with its clothes and with its warm eyes that sheltered the heart of anyone, also filled with tenderness all those who visited it in the clinic. Because the dog had become the star image, the whole city knew the story of that great dog after being hurt unspeakably. It had regained confidence in humans and was once again a happy and spoiled dog, as it should never have ceased to be. Amor was with Martin and Sonia all its life, and every day they loved it more and more to compensate for everything it had suffered, and because it was their most faithful and unconditional friend. If you liked this video, give it a like, share it with your friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'm Max, and see you in an upcoming story.